The rapid expansion of big tech data centers is pushing U.S. electricity grids to their limits, sparking a bold and controversial idea: cutting power to these massive energy consumers during critical grid emergencies. This tough-love approach is gaining traction among policymakers who are grappling with how to keep the lights on for everyone else when demand spikes. Texas has taken the lead in this debate. After the devastating winter blackout in 2021, which tragically claimed dozens of lives, state lawmakers are determined to prevent a repeat by protecting residents in areas dense with data centers. They passed legislation in June that sets clear standards for power emergencies, including the possibility of disconnecting large electricity users, like data centers, to preserve grid stability during extreme weather or peak demand periods.
But here's where it gets controversial. While Texas is pioneering this strategy, similar discussions are now unfolding across the 13-state Mid-Atlantic grid and other regions. The problem is that data centers are coming online faster than new power plants can be built and connected, creating a growing imbalance. For big tech, a constant and reliable power supply is non-negotiable, so the idea of being cut off during emergencies is understandably alarming. Texas, like many states, sees data centers as economic engines, attracting investment and jobs. Yet the enormous electricity these centers consume presents a serious challenge. The new law aims to save enough power during the hottest and coldest days, when electricity use peaks, to avoid widespread blackouts. This is a delicate balancing act between fostering economic growth and ensuring grid reliability.
The urgency of this issue has only intensified since the late 2022 launch of OpenAI's ChatGPT, which sparked a global surge in demand for AI-driven services. These technologies require vast computing power, which in turn demands huge amounts of electricity. Michael Weber, an energy expert at the University of Texas, predicts that data center flexibility, meaning their ability to reduce or shift power use, will soon become a standard expectation, whether encouraged or mandated. The core of the problem is that electricity grids simply can't keep pace with the explosive growth of data centers, not just in Texas, but in about 20 states nationwide. This growth is partly fueled by the U.S. race against China for dominance in artificial intelligence, which relies heavily on data center infrastructure. Grid operators in Texas, the Great Plains, and the Mid-Atlantic have issued stark warnings. Electricity demand is set to soar, driven largely by data centers. The PJM interconnection, the largest grid operator serving 65 million people across the Mid-Atlantic, including data center hubs in Virginia, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, has proposed measures similar to Texas's, where data centers might not be guaranteed power during emergencies. This proposal has sparked heated debate. Power plant owners and tech companies question PJM's authority to enforce such rules, and warn that the uncertainty could scare off investors and developers. The Digital Power Network, representing Bitcoin miners and data center developers, expressed concerns that these policies could destabilize energy markets and hinder regional competitiveness. Governors from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Illinois, and Maryland have voiced worries that the approach is too unpredictable to be a lasting solution. They argue that any such policy should be paired with incentives encouraging data centers to build new power sources and voluntarily reduce consumption during crises. Consumer advocates add another layer of complexity, suggesting that instead of cutting power, data centers should be required to generate their own electricity to ease grid strain. Meanwhile, some companies are taking voluntary steps. In Indiana, Google struck a deal with Indiana-Michigan Power to reduce electricity use at a planned $2 billion data center in Fort Wayne during grid stress by postponing non-urgent tasks. However, consumer advocates like Ben Inskeep from the Citizens Action Coalition criticize the lack of transparency around the agreement, leaving questions about its true effectiveness. This emerging strategy of temporarily disconnecting large power users during peak demand represents a significant shift in how electricity is managed. It could potentially save everyday consumers money,
as electricity prices soar during peak periods, rising twice as fast as inflation nationally.
Abe Silverman, an energy researcher at Johns Hopkins University, explains that data centers typically consume electricity without restriction on most days. But if they can be temporarily powered down during a few hours of extreme heat or cold, it might eliminate the need to build costly new power plants just to meet those rare spikes. Silverman poses a critical question. Is it worth investing billions in new power plants to serve data centers for just a handful of hours each year? Or is there a smarter, more efficient way to balance the grid's needs with the demands of big tech? This debate touches on broader issues about the future of energy, economic growth, and technological innovation. Should data centers be prioritized as essential infrastructure, or should they bear more responsibility for their outsized energy consumption? And how do we ensure that the costs of this digital revolution don't unfairly fall on everyday electricity consumers? What do you think? Is it fair to cut power to data centers during emergencies to protect the grid? Or does this risk stifling innovation and economic growth? Share your thoughts and join the conversation below.